Hello and welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. This segment, we talk about what meaning you get from your life as a creative. Who are you now? What stuff have you done creatively? And are you heading where you want to go? We've created a really good thought experiment to mull those questions over with some direction and come up with some new thinking. Hope you enjoy.
Hey, Pat.
Yes, James.
So, as you know, I like to go for runs, walks, and that sort of thing. And that, for whatever reason, because I do it maybe at the end of my work day, creative day, really sparks some deep delusional thinking.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And my latest deep delusional thinking was this imaginary sort of battle over which university is going to catalog in their library my papers.
Your papers. Okay.
Yes.
So much to unpack there. Work-related papers or like tissue papers?
Everything. Yeah. Well, for DNA samples, tissue. Where are the archives going to go? Who is going to host my retrospective?
Your retrospective of all your work that you've accomplished over a long, fruitful artistic career.
Yes. Is it going to be? I don't want it to be one of the Ivy Leagues.
How come?
I decided in my delusional conversation with myself in my head, because they drive me a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
So then I was like, what's anyway, it was, off I went. But this leads into a conversation that you and I have been wanting to have now for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Which is this notion of considering your personal retrospective. Right. And the interesting thing is, as we've talked about it and thought about it, we kind of come from two different places.
Yeah.
And I'd love to start. Have you set it up, tee it up for us?
Okay. Well, I was thinking, so a retrospective is just really a look back at your career in an artistic sense, right? If you're a creative person, I'll look back at all the things you've accomplished. So you're sort of imagining yourself at 80 or whatever, and you're thinking, if there was a gallery show about my creative output, this is how I see it. What would be in that show? Like, what stuff would be there? And if you could track back to the show before that and the show before that and the show before that, because, retrospective sometimes is, especially if you're talking about visual arts, is a collection of everything you've ever done, often in different eras and so on. And so that would involve, if you're a visual artist, having gallery shows before that. So if you go from, let's say you're 25 and you're having your first gallery show, I don't know if that's delusional, but I was just at an art gallery where a young person had their show and their stuff was fantastic. I loved it. Right. And then and then you go forward in time and you think about, well, my retrospective, that part of that show was on there too, but what other stuff would be on the walls, and it doesn't have to be visual art. You can think of it as a writer or, median, any creative output.
If you're a musician, you have these box CD sets of, all of your music. If you're a writer, I just finished a book of Joan Didion's writing, where it collected 2 full books of hers plus a bunch of her journalism, and other stuff, and it was fantastic. So
that's the basic premise, that you have this. You project yourself forward in time and think about your retrospective and what would be in it, and then from there, I was thinking, well, wouldn't that help you really decide what you want to be doing and who you're doing it for? And I was coming from a place more of, how do you want to feel about your creative output in that in that final show? Like, how do you want to feel about it? Do you want to feel like you did what you wanted to do, or were you, shanghaied by circumstance? Do you have enough of a body of work right now to even project yourself into a future where you can have a retrospective of it, or are there only a couple of dribs and drabs that any schmuck could produce? God, I'm an asshole. So
yeah, the big realization I wasn't that good.
I didn't really do very much. It's not even about being good, it's about just doing it, right? So
yeah.
So anyway, that's the perspective I'm looking at it from. Like, how do you feel about your stuff that you did? And how can sort of imagining how you want to feel at the end of your life about the stuff you did help you make decisions and actually do the stuff you're doing this year and next year, right?
Okay. So I love this. And the idea is to project yourself forward, and you have a body of work. And I think part of that projection, though, is looking at what you're doing now and where the arc of your current work is taking you.
Exactly.
And then using that as a way to sort of say, is it taking me where I want to go?
Exactly. 100%.
Right. Am I going where I want to go in the way that I want to get there? And if so, how do you get better at it? How do you do more? How do you be more focused and find more opportunities? And if not, what do you need to shift? What do you need to change? How do you get yourself back on that personal narrative arc that brings you to a retrospective that you would say, yeah, I feel really good about this.
Exactly.
Right. No, I think that I love it. I love
that you love it.
Yeah. And so and that works for any creative, mode. I think when the word retrospective so often gets used for visual arts because we're so used to hearing, the local MFA is doing a retrospective of such and such and so and so and that kind of thing. But it applies to everybody because we're creating a body of work. Yeah. And, and this reminds me too, so I do a lot of hiking. And one of the things when you're getting really tired and sort of feeling like, when are we going to get there kind of thing, is to turn around and look back at everything you've done, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the same thing that you're talking about in a way is we're mid-mountain or maybe 2/3 of the way up the mountain. And we need to take a look back to be able to see where we're going to make sure, is this where we want to be? As artists?
Partly that. And we also need to project ourselves forward in time and go, is what we're doing right now making sense given that we want to have this we want to have this feeling forward in time that we didn't waste our talents and we didn't waste our time and we did what we could with what we had, regardless of whether we made money or were famous or not. That's not what it's about. It's, did you use your gifts to the maximum of your ability and circumstance? And so I have that attitude towards it. And now I'm interested because you mentioned something about this is also a good way to do something different.
Right. To better understand your audience, or at least the audience that you're trying to appeal to. Yeah. And, and so for me, it got me to think, the other thing about a retrospective is it's, whether intentionally or not, and I'm thinking about an artist here. If you're looking at an artist's work, there's going to be the early work where they're kind of all over the place, experimenting, figuring out, what their voice is and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But the most of it is going to be thematically aligned as they matured and they found their sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right. And, so when you go to these retrospectives, it definitely coheres, right? Yeah. Like, you can see one painting to the next is basically the same artist, even though, there may be different forms and that kind of thing. And the people who show up are the people who are going to be attracted to what that person is doing. Right. Yeah. So I'm thinking, from this audience perspective is, all right, so I know where I've been. I'm looking at where this arc is going to take me. And I'm trying to sort of plot that out. And I can also use this as an exercise to kind of define what the audience is, like who's going to show up, right? Mm-hmm.
It's good.
So thinking about it, where is your retrospective going to be held,
Yeah,
right?
good point. Yeah.
Location, and that can be geographical, it can be institutional, it can be, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Who's going to host it, right?
Your biggest fan, hopefully, right?
Yeah, well, who's the most likely place to host it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're one type of artist, a modern art museum is going to want to host it. If you're another type of artist, an MFA, all those and who are the groups and organizations and those kinds of things. And maybe you can even get a little bit more specific, like who in your life, right?
Yeah.
And then who's going to be invited, right? Who's going to
Yeah.
comment? Who's going to write the foreword? Who's going to
Yeah.
write the bio? Who's going to do, all these kinds of things? And who just is going to show up? And then what is your theme going to be?
Ooh.
Right? What is it that is connecting your work, even if you're writing completely different stories about completely different things? And so for me, the theme, that I'm into is really sort of exploring, suburban angst, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that says a lot as to who's going to be attracted to that and who's going to want to show up to my retrospective. But anyway, but I feel like by answering these questions in a very substantive, thoughtful way,
Mm-hmm.
you can really come to a better understanding of the audience that you're trying to appeal to.
Yeah.
And once you can understand the audience you're trying to appeal to, then that creates intentionality behind the ways that you go about accessing that audience, right? So instead of trying to reach everybody, you're sort of saying, oh, you know what? I really need to think more in a more sort of targeted way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I have a little trouble with the wording trying to appeal to because I just do my shit because I want to do it. I don't actually think about anything, which is probably why I'm underachieving
Yeah.
all over
Well,
the
this is
place.
why retrospective, I think, is so good
Yeah.
because it's already done. Right. So
Right.
I don't think about, like, when I write, I don't think about, oh, what is the audience going to think, or who am I
Yeah.
trying to appeal to, or
Okay.
publisher?
Yeah, that makes
I'm
sense.
just writing that I like.
Yeah.
But then it's that afterward, okay, who wants to read this?
Yeah. And you have to do that. I mean, it's just part of the creative marketplace, if you will. You have to know who wants your stuff. It's like, it doesn't have to be an avatar like they have in marketing, but you've got to understand where you sit. I've just had this flash forward, this is where the mind is so powerful, right? I like I listen to a lot of meditation tapes and they're like, imagine you're in the quantum realm. Everything is already there for you. You think it and it'll happen. And yes, I feel that there's a gigantic bullshit element to that stuff. However, what they say is don't imagine failure because then you're going to fail, right? So I'm just sitting here going, wow, what if we had my personal retrospective in the Gifted Underachiever Clubhouse and it was just like all these half-done projects on the wall. Don't do that. Okay. That's not what we're
Yeah.
talking about. We're talking about if you were successful. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously having a lot of unfinished stuff is part of the creative way.
Yeah.
So you got to think about your finished stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's taking this idea that you came up with, right? Like, what is your retrospective going to be, and all that, and thinking, okay, I think there's a way to apply this and use it as a tool.
Yeah, for sure.
To really do some deeper thinking. But then I really like what you're talking about too, which is really to assess, here's where I am, here's where it looks like I'm going, and is that where I want to go?
Yeah.
And so it's really a tool to define or divine two different aspects of your career as a creative.
Geez, I think that's very articulate. I like what you just said there.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And and so, when I think about these questions, from the understanding the audience perspective that I have, who hosts, who's invited, theme, those are really hard to answer, and they require doing some really deep thinking
Yeah.
about who I am as a creative.
Yeah.
right? And I like too about yours from your perspective that that's also a really hard thing to figure out too, right? And it's going to force you to do some deeper thinking and self analysis uh, to really get to the point where you can confidently say, okay, I now feel like I know where I'm going, and I have either I'm happy about it or I'm not,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I think it's a good, difficult, challenging, worthwhile thought exercise.
I do too. And I also just want to suggest too that it is the perfect thought experiment for mid-level creatives, because when you start out in any creative field, you could have some delusional ambitions. You see yourself in Carnegie Hall, or you're at the Oscars every year getting something, probably
Mhm.
not the Under the Line Crew Award, but because
Yeah,
they've kiboshed that. But the
yeah, that.
point is, you can start out pretty ambitious. Like when I got my first book published by accident. I won a contest. I didn't expect it to
Mhm.
happen, and I wasn't a writer at all. And but then I started studying how to write a book, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is pretty hard. But I still had in my head, oh yeah, I'll be published by one of the big five. It'll be great.
Mhm.
I'll be writing this. I'll be writing. I didn't ever think I would be writing for a living, but I thought I was going to do okay. And then
Mhm.
now I'm mid-level. I'm like, you know what? I don't have those ambitions anymore. My ambition is to write good stuff that I like, that finds a readership for, in the area that I kind of troll, and that feels interesting to me, that lights me up
Yeah,
inside when I think about it, that feels like an indulgence to write because I'm enjoying it so much. That's
right.
what my definition now is. I don't, I figure the rest of this stuff it just happens. You got to be focused about
And,
it.
and that's really cool because if you keep up with that, right? If you sustain your arc
Yeah.
of that,
Yeah.
then you can think about my retrospective when I'm walking through the hallway or what have you. Is I'm going to see a lot of stuff that I had a lot of fun doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And so that in and of itself is a type of success,
Yeah.
right? And then you can add more conditions to it where, well, but I also would like to make some money. I would
Yes,
also
exactly.
like to have an impact on the conversation, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
those.
And you can say, add to that, I'd like to collaborate because I have a lot of fun collaborating.
Mhm.
I don't do very often because I haven't made it a focus really,
Mhm.
but I could. That's totally up to me. In which case, the retrospective would be different because it would have the occasional collaborative project, and they would all be invited too, because their fans, or whatever you want to call them, their audience would buy
Mhm.
tickets. So it's a very interesting, um like you say, thought experiment or model to use as a kind of a daydreaming tool, to just kind of like take that step back from your day to day, and get a little bit more intentional, I suppose.
Yeah, it reminds when you talk about like how to be creative,
Hmm.
and for us, we're writers, so we've both read lots and lots of books about here's how to write kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it always comes down to the same things,
Yeah.
right? And but what matters is the way that it's presented,
Yeah.
right? So there's some things like I read Storycraft, and that book just spoke to me, right?
Really.
Even
Yeah.
though he's not, the author isn't really saying anything that different from anybody else. The way he presents it, the way he frames it
Yeah.
is really, really worked for me. And it
Right.
got me to think about structure in a more meaningful way and substantive way and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, and so all of these sort of thought experiment exercises that we come up with are about trying to sort of say there's lots of different ways to think about the same things,
Yeah.
which are thinking about your life as a creative, the meaning that you get from your life as a creative, and where you want to take it
Yeah.
and where you want to go and how to be more successful at it.
Yeah.
And I see this as one of, many, many different ways of doing that.
Yeah.
But when you first came up with me, it got me kind of excited because it felt like a new perspective, a new way to approach this kind of analysis.
Cool. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the time and energy you have displayed just now. And this will be, GU will be part of both of this podcast will be part of both of our personal retrospectives, and it's a collaboration. And I'm happy about that. I think it's a good thing to hang on the wall.
Yep. There's going to be the Hell John Irving captive era. There's going to be so many different eras.
Oh gosh. And
Gifted Underachievers.
That doesn't define us. We've done a lot of other stupid stuff. Our merch drops are beyond dumb. And our various fucking contest and grant experiments are like a couple of jokers, clowns trying to get money.
Trying to get the art establishment to give us a few bucks.
We suck at it so far, but hey, we're having fun.
Yeah, I think we've been finding out it's possible, but it's hard.
Yeah. Harder than we thought, just like everything.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Thanks for
enjoy. Hope this helps.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Hope you have a great creative week.